All right, today we are jumping into a legal case that, honestly, reads more like a Hollywood thriller than a court document. We're talking about a single family, a lawsuit alleging a massive criminal conspiracy, and a fight they call a war on two fronts to save their property across Arizona.
So, we're looking at a federal RICO lawsuit filed by the Hartl family. And what makes it so wild is that it connects a bunch of events in the big city, Maricopa County, with another set of events way out in rural Mojave County. And believe me, the allegations go way beyond a simple property dispute.
So at the very center of this whole thing, you have the Hartl family. Now, their lawsuit claims they were specifically targeted in this coordinated, multi-year campaign to illegally take their properties. And the methods they allege, we're talking a pattern of fraud, straight-up intimidation, and corruption that they say involved not just private citizens, but public officials too.
Okay, so let's break down this war. The first front, according to the lawsuit, opens up in Phoenix. And this is where it gets really interesting, because the Hartls claim the city of Phoenix itself was a key player in a scheme designed to force them out of their home, using all the weight of bureaucracy and legal muscle it could. The lawsuit doesn't just make vague accusations, it names a whole cast of characters allegedly involved in this Phoenix operation. It claims there was this coordinated effort between city officials, a real estate developer, and a lawyer, with each of them playing a very specific role in the whole thing. Now, what's so critical to understand here is how the lawsuit connects a government body, the city of Phoenix, with private companies. I mean, the main allegation isn't just that these groups acted badly on their own. Nope. It's that they were acting together, working in concert to basically corner the homeowners and leave them with no way out.
So this is the alleged playbook, step by step. The lawsuit argues this wasn't just a series of unlucky breaks, it was a calculated plan. You start by creating a bogus debt with a void lien. Then, bam, you hit them with these insane $68,000 water bills for a property that wasn't even using water. Then you sabotage a real sale to mess up the title, and use all that chaos to try and force a foreclosure. But that was just front number one. The story in these court filings then takes a hard turn, jumping about 200 miles northwest to Mojave County. And this, according to the lawsuit, is where the tactics went from bureaucratic pressure to something way more direct and way more violent.
So on this second front, a whole new cast of characters shows up. The lawsuit accuses these players of leading a much more aggressive phase of the operation, swapping out the legal paperwork for intimidation and actual property destruction.
And a key figure here is a man named David Carey. The complaint makes sure to point out that he's a financier who is permanently barred by FINRA, that's the financial industry's big watchdog, for misappropriating customer funds. He's alleged to be the main guy in this whole Mojave County operation.
This slide really just lays it all out, doesn't it? It shows the two-front nature of this alleged war perfectly. The Phoenix scheme, as the lawsuit tells it, was death by 1,000 paper cuts, using the courthouse and red tape. The Mojave scheme, on the other hand, was all about fire and fear to get the job done. The allegations for what happened in Mojave County are pretty severe. They're centered on a suspicious fire and what the Hartl family's lawyers are calling systemic, documented fraud that they found hiding in plain sight in the county's own public records.
So, in June of 2023, one of Keith Hartl's properties in Mojave County just goes up in flames. The complaint says this was no accident. It's flat out calling it arson, claiming the fire was deliberately set to destroy the property and any evidence that might have been inside.
Now get this is a truly stunning detail from the complaint. It alleges that almost right after the fire, we're talking within 48 hours, the burned out, destroyed property was listed for rent online by one of Carey's companies. The filing says this wasn't just bizarre, it was a move to quickly take control of the property and, conceal the crime. To back all this up, the lawsuit points to what lawyers call badges of fraud. These are basically giant red flags and public records that suggest something illegal is going on. For instance, they point to a property deed from October 2024 that was notarized by someone whose commission had expired over 3 years earlier. The plaintiffs argue that, under Arizona law, that one detail alone makes the entire deed legally void.
So the big question is, how do you connect these two operations that seem so different? One is all bureaucratic paperwork in Phoenix, the other is fire and brimstone in Mojave County. Well, the answer is a very powerful federal law that was pretty much designed for situations just like this.
They're using the RICO Act. Yeah, that RICO Act, the one famous for taking down the mafia.
It allows people in civil cases, not just prosecutors, to target a large-scale criminal enterprise. But here's the catch. To win a RICO claim, you can't just prove a single crime. You have to prove a whole pattern of related criminal activity that's being run by an enterprise.
And that's exactly what the lawsuit tries to do. It argues that all these different actions in both counties, they aren't just isolated incidents. They're a laundry list of what the law calls predicate acts, which are like the individual building blocks of a RICO claim. The whole argument is that when you stack all these blocks together, from the document fraud all the way to the alleged arson, they form one single coordinated criminal enterprise.
Okay, now it is absolutely critical that we all remember. These are all allegations. This is not a conviction. This is a very complex and very active legal battle, and you can be sure all the parties named are denying every single one of these claims.
And this case is moving, and it's moving fast. The court records show that it was actually dismissed this past August. But then, in this really dramatic turn of events 2 months later, the judge completely reversed that decision, reinstated the case, and granted the Hartl family an emergency order to stop them from being evicted. A huge hearing is scheduled for just a few days from now to figure out what happens next.
You know, as this whole case unfolds, it brings up a fundamental question. Where exactly is the line between just being an aggressive business person and running an actual criminal enterprise? The entire outcome here is going to depend on whether a court looks at all these events and sees a bunch of independent, maybe cutthroat business deals, or if it sees one single orchestrated racketeering scheme.